Well, good morning, AfricaCom. My name is not who it was announced. I'm Ian Mash. I'm from Huawei. I'm a Vice President of Business and Network Consulting in the UK. And I'm honoured to be at this very prestigious venue with such a knowledgeable audience today in this wonderful country on such a great day. It's great to come from the UK today. It was horrible November, wet and windy weather when I left, and it's like being, it's like being the best day of summer here before 9 o'clock in Cape Town. So what I'd like to talk about today is to discuss a bit our vision for the future African market. So across Africa, we can see here that there's an enormous amount of internet penetration, and it's growing fast. You can see some countries are above the world average of 45%, and quite a few countries are still below the world average. You can see the red, yellow, and the horrible sort of beigey colour. And that really shows that there's still a great deal of work to do, but the movement already is being driven by smartphone. And you can see here the top 10 African countries already account for 500 million users across the continent. So, as I said, it's driven by the smartphone. I mean, what is the last thing we all do when we go to bed at night? It's check the smartphone. And what's the first thing we all do when we get up in the morning? Again, check your smartphone. It might even be a Huawei smartphone. I see someone down there has actually got one. Well done. That's part of our life, and it's going to get more and more part of our life in the future. It's the control point, probably, of our future. So, clearly, a strong IT infrastructure is required to drive that. We're now in the fourth industrial revolution, really, you can see here. The first one was all about mechanization, about making clothes, making automobiles, and those sorts of things. And the second one was providing the electrification to drive that industry, huge quantities of power needed to do that. And then it was about automating the processes and the procedures and making that all more efficient going forwards. But now we're in the fourth age, and that's all about intelligence. It's about understanding that there are going to be millions, billions, maybe even 1 trillion things connected to the network in the next few years. And those connections in the vertical sectors, you can see at the bottom left, my left, your right, they're going to be connected to the Internet of Things, and those connections concatenated together and using big data engines, etc., and aggregation and data analytics are going to provide information across the world that we previously have not had access to. So, for example, consider going to the doctors. You might go to the doctor because you've got asthma. You think you've got asthma. The doctor thinks, well, this is a bit odd. I'm getting a lot of people in this week with asthma. So he can connect up to a centralized database and look at potentially clusters and sees that there's a cluster in a particular area. That centralized database also can then access sensors for air pollution and realize that actually it's not asthma, it's a pollution problem, and it's being driven by a specific factory, and that factory can be closed down. So that's information that we previously would not have been able to have access to as quickly and easily. Secondly, potentially, think of coming down in the morning and finding your daughter not very well. So you can get your smartphone out, put it on her arm, analyze her blood. It tells you she's probably got influenza. So you can have a direct connection to a doctor in real time via video. He can connect up and understand the blood analysis and say, yes, it's definitely influenza, so go to your 3D printer and I'll print out some pills for her. So your daughter's 15, so you don't really need to be at home with her to look after her. Just tell her to go to bed, take the pills. But what you can do is create some chicken soup. Again, maybe on the 3D printer, who knows? You need a lot of ink for the chicken soup, I think. So you can go to work, but you can keep constant monitor of her with a video link. And if if your CC starts to moving around, you can connect what's up. Oh, I feel much worse. Right, I'm going to come home. So that's a world, that we're going to be in the very near future, and that's going to be driven by ICT. And you can see here on the chart, as we're moving from voice to data, there's 5.5 billion mobile broadband connections around the world and 1 billion fixed broadband. We're moving now from pipe to content. All of our media pretty much now is online, and there's 750 million connected TV users around the world. The television is becoming the connection portal and to the home. We're moving from people to machines, 50 billion connections. No one knows how many connections they're going to be, 50 billion, 100 billion, trillion. It's going to be a lot, though, on the Internet of Things. And then we're moving from communications technology to ICT with 50 billion cloud services on the Internet. So that ICT development is going to achieve socio and economic benefit. We know that the Internet can provide GDP growth. A 20% increase in ICT investment is calculated to produce a 1% increase in GDP growth. So there are going to be more jobs. If there are more jobs and they're more efficient jobs, that's also driving GDP growth. And we can also bridge the digital divide between today and tomorrow, and for the people who are currently connected and who are not connected. Okay? And that's starting to bring e-education and e-health capabilities to places like, particularly in Africa, into rural sort of areas. And that's driving the world forwards. And I think, there are opportunities here. So we know that in 2025, when we've got 50, 100 billion connections, something like 55% of those are going to be business related. That means ICT has the great potential to transform these traditional industries moving forwards, and that ICT development drives this virtual circle. So we can see the ICT industry is transforming. We know there's the move from video to data. It's going to be a much more complex world with much more agility. We can see rapid growth in gaming, video capabilities, high definition TV, network sensors, to name but a few. And so really, these new applications that are going to require higher bandwidth, they're going to be requiring higher capacity, lower latency, and a much more extensive business infrastructure to support all that. But that's only the start of it. Where are we going to be in the next 5 years? If I was here next year or in 5 years' time, listening to the audiences, listening to the panels going forwards with innovation across this huge continent, what innovative services and features are going to be available for us going forwards? We know as well that communication is also changing. So as we move from voice-centric to data-centric, we can see here, we're moving to a multimedia world where the so-called digital natives, those people who have always had connectivity, are the key drivers to the industry. Those people want what they want now, cheaper, faster, and with better service. They see communications as a right, not a luxury. And if they don't get what they want, they'll move from operator to operator until they do get what they want. So today, we see control being about multimedia and media devices. Tomorrow, it's going to be about the connection of... tomorrow, it's going to be about everything being connected and ultra-low latency to support things like autonomous vehicles, or perhaps more importantly here in Africa, maybe the tactile internet, where potentially in rural environments, we could be operating on people remotely from, say, here from a hospital in Cape Town in a remote rural area. Although I think hands up to be the first person that wants to be remotely operated on. So today we see data management as being about converged data, but tomorrow we can already see it will be about massively big data and moving into a better connected world where data processing and analytics will give us new kinds of information that I spoke about earlier. And it's also going to be about security and privacy of that information in the aggressive world of cybersecurity and the issues that sit around that already. So looking back at the evolution of our industry, we've grown from an industry providing essentially four data sort of services, four services over the last years: voice, data, SMS, and picture messaging, into a new world surrounded by OTT players and with the concerns for the operators about the revenue potential and how to make money in that world environment that drives. But in actual fact, all those problems are probably solvable. Moving on into the next 10 years, we're looking at a world where we could be looking at a series of smart services and the rise of bespoke services in vertical markets. And so the issue around that really is how are you going to make money in a bespoke world with vertical markets where new products and services are going to be individualistic, not mass marketed. So the issue there is it's difficult to see what the opportunity is going to be in the short term. So we've come up now with a view from Huawei, which is based around looking at the different connected opportunities have. And we've got to start to consider the benefits of systemic end-to-end services and how data from each of the individual areas is going to enhance and support all the other areas. It'll only be by seeking to uncover the value in cross-domain services that we'll succeed in creating that additional value. And the opportunity we're talking about here is, potentially $7.1 trillion globally in 2020. So we need to build flexible and adaptive networks and control systems across our networks so that the carrier networks can be complex and flexible. And to solve the issue of complexity and inflexibility, Huawei's launched the SOFCOM strategy to migrate telecoms infrastructures into the cloud. It's a combination of, software and communications, SOFCOM. And we're talking about the ability to run the new services in a very flexible, open infrastructure. So things like SDN, NFV, cloud services, so that we can build and create and destroy products and services quickly and easily across the market. But we also believe that user experience is still and will remain a key issue for our customers, all of our customers. And that really user experience comes in two aspects. First of all, the quality of the services, and second, and perhaps even more importantly, getting hold of the services. And many services and features have been destroyed by the inability of our products and services teams to actually build a service that's quickly and easily accessible for customers going forward. And as I said, digital natives don't take prisoners. They'll move on if they don't get what they want. So clumsy transaction and lengthy provisioning can potentially scare users away. And to me, that might be the biggest single gap in our OTT compared to OTT players. So what will the future look like in obtaining the services? So we've come up with this acronym, ROADS. It means real time, where users can employ a zero waiting time to get the features and capabilities they want, enabled by sufficient bandwidth and coverage. On demand, users will be able to freely use whatever services and features they demand. All online, because we expect devices to be online all of the time. DIY, because users are going to want to tailor their services. We heard earlier the discussion about tailoring services to your individual needs, and we expect users to drive that a lot. So maybe, when you're at work, you'll have one profile of capabilities that you want to look after, maybe seeing your daughter who's ill. And when you're at home, maybe you just want to deal with Facebook or Google or some of the other issues, some of the other services. And finally, social. As I said earlier, the world is driven around social capabilities and social media now. And social networks are now a part of life. Together, these spell out roads, and this is our vision for the future and will guide our actions. The road concept really represents to us open roads, and it's the direction that industries, we hope, will take during their internet transformations. And we think roads captures the consumption behavior of the Generation X that's grown up with the internet over the past 20 years, and who actually will be making the purchase decisions in the next 30 to 40 years. So we believe that roads is going to lead to a better connected Africa. And if you're going to do that, it's about understanding ultra-mobile broadband, reshaping networks, using things like small cells to drive coverage and speed and capabilities. 4.5, 5G starts to open connectivity to the gigabit world. And data center transformation, virtualizing and growing data center storage and capabilities, and the ability to access information quickly and easily will be key. And to do that, you need an open digital ecosystem, and that means having an ecosystem built around all the devices and the capabilities that you need to access things like video everywhere, the continuous demand and the greater demand for video going forwards. And it means using a concept like roads to monetize your mobile broadband. And it means helping to create and facilitate and drive smart cities, the smart city initiatives that are happening all around the world, from everywhere to from Singapore, Milton Keynes in the UK, hardly a city. And it also is about transforming both the IT infrastructure and the telco operation. It's about customer experience management. It's about integrating and managing IT transformation together and enabling the transformation from a standard telco operator to a fully digital operator. But to do that, we think proactivity is key to success in Africa. And that's about spectrum policies. It's about being able to release more spectrum, more frequencies, to have an easier access for everyone. It's about coordinating the planning and how we can help governments and operators coordinate the planning to get the best bang for the buck out of the services. It's about maintaining technology neutrality. It's about also the synergy of the infrastructure. We believe that openness, contribution, and subsidy by governments is going to drive the rollout across Africa, to drive the different access methods, to drive optical and different capabilities inside the core network. But perhaps most importantly, it's about national broadband policies. It's about, as we heard earlier from the panelists, it's about government investment. It's about potentially public and private partnerships where that's appropriate. It's about supportive policies of driving and helping to build entrepreneurialism and also capabilities across the nations. It's about maybe things like tax incentives and other incentives to help roll out and drive the business. And it's about maintaining the level and improving the level of skills training. And Huawei is very much prepared to help with all of those capabilities going forwards. So, then, in summary, and then you can get your coffee. We believe that open roads as a concept can help drive a better connected, prosperous, and vibrant Africa. It's about the better connected world that is waiting for us. It involves connections between people and people, people and things, and things and things. And it also relates to user experience, industry collaboration on connectivity standards for things, and also the government wills and drive to help this continent compete with the rest of the world. No single company is going to be able to meet the standards of diverse scenarios in a world of 100 billion connections. So open cooperation and joint innovation will be our way forward for Huawei. Our networks are open, and so are our approaches to cooperation, working with partners, working with operators. We'll also collaborate openly with all our partners, experts, enterprises and carriers to create mutual benefit. So as an industry, let's remain open and together build a better connected Africa. Thank you for your attention.